Some JJK fans like to say that this fight is a coin flip, that if Kenji Hakari hits a jackpot, it's over. But that completely ignores one critical problem. Yuta does not have to let Hakari play that game at all. And once you realize that, this fight starts looking a lot less even and a lot more one-sided. Now, to be clear, Hakari is insanely dangerous. If he gets rolling and gets a jackpot, he becomes borderline unkillable. But this matchup isn't necessarily about peak Hakari. It's about whether he even gets to his peak in the first place. Most people tend to overestimate Hakari, and that's only natural. Because in his most iconic fight against Kashimo, Hakari went into that fight already in the middle of a jackpot that he landed in his previous battle against Charles. However, in a true 1 versus 1, he's starting in his base form. So we're talking no momentum, no jackpot, and no immortality. That changes absolutely everything about this fight. Now let's address the elephant in the room here. Some people argue that Hakari can beat Yuta because Yuta once stated, once Hakari gets on a roll, that he is stronger than him. The problem with using this statement to justify that, however, is that Maki immediately contradicts it, directly telling Yuta that's impossible. Considering Yuta's timid personality, he was probably just being humble. And in character, Maki tends to be a lot more blunt, so her take is probably a lot more honest in that situation, especially since Yuta didn't argue with her on that at all. Here's what we can actually gather from that statement though. Yuta isn't walking into this blind. He's seen enough of Hakari to know that he's super strong. The fact that he said that when Hakari is on a roll he's stronger implies that he knows how Hakari's domain, technique, and jackpot work, which means he should understand one simple rule. If Hakari opens his domain, the fight becomes exponentially harder. So what does Yuta do if he's being rational here? He stops that from happening. Yuta has multiple ways to shut down Hakari before jackpot even becomes a factor. First, if he summons Rika immediately, he gains access to techniques like Jacob's Ladder, which can disrupt curse techniques entirely. This stops Hakari from even opening his domain, which means he can't get a jackpot. Alternatively, if you want to take Yuta from earlier in the series, before he had Rika eat Hana's arm to gain Jacob's Ladder, Yuta still has cursed speech, and all it takes is one command: stop. He can say this whenever Hakari tries to form the signs for his domain expansion. If Hakari can't open his domain and subsequently roll a jackpot, then Yuta, with Rika's help and access to his full arsenal of curse techniques and curse tools, absolutely destroys Hakari. Now let's say Yuta doesn't play optimally, which granted could very well happen since he doesn't always summon Rika from the get-go. We start off with base Yuta versus base Hakari. This matchup is actually a little bit contentious. Hakari likely has the edge in raw hand-to-hand combat, because unlike Yuta, punching and kicking is pretty much most of his moveset. Not to mention, he can use his innate technique to summon obstacles like train doors to further pressure his opponent. That being said, Yuta is far from weak here. He was able to keep up with post Shibuya Yuji, and put him on the back foot before even summoning Rika. And, more importantly, Yuta has two things in base that Hakari doesn't: insane stamina and reverse curse technique. He can most definitely survive a little while against Hakari, but he likely won't be able to stop Hakari from opening his domain when he's in his base form. So what happens when Hakari gets his domain off? Yuta certainly has the option to open his own domain and clash with Hakari. If he's successful, he can collapse Hakari's domain and stop him from hitting the jackpot. On top of this, Hakari will be left in curse technique burnout. However, this might not be the smartest move since we know Hakari's domain is especially strong in clashes. Even though Yuta is very strong, we know his curse energy control is sloppy, which could have a negative impact on his ability to clash with Hakari's domain. And if he loses the clash, then his curse technique will burn out. Trying to clash domains with Hakari would be high risk, high reward, but he doesn't necessarily need to try this risky gambit. His domain is more useful later on. For now, he would be better off allowing Hakari to use his domain and hit a jackpot. Now granted, yes, this means Hakari will become extremely hard to kill, but this is where Yuta's versatility matters. If Yuta summons Rika here, he gains access to massive cursed energy, access to multiple curse techniques, and a second fighter on the field alongside him. That's enough to match Jackpot Hakari and not get overwhelmed by him. Now, can Yuta kill him during a jackpot? Probably not consistently. He could try to destroy Hakari's head in one blow with a love beam, but this probably won't work for a couple reasons. First of all, the love beam takes a little bit of time to charge up, and Hakari isn't dumb enough to stand there while he does it. Yuta might be able to stun Hakari with cursed speech, but it probably won't last long enough to fully charge the love beam. Even if it does, Hakari is probably immune while in a jackpot, because the infinite cursed energy flowing from his ears could block cursed speech. However, if cursed speech manages to work anyway, Hakari might be able to repel the cursed energy from the love beam with the infinite cursed energy flowing from his eyes and nose, like he did against Hakari's lightning bolt. But here's the key though. Yuta doesn't need to end Hakari yet. His jackpot lasts 4 minutes and 11 seconds. Yuta's full manifestation with Rika, on the other hand, 5 minutes. That means if Yuta times this correctly, he outlasts Hakari's immortality window. And the moment jackpot ends, Hakari's back at base strength, while Yuta still has Rika, his curse techniques, and vastly expanded cursed energy. That's the turning point, and it gets worse for Hakari from here. Because once the jackpot ends, Yuta can use cursed speech to stop another domain attempt. He can also use Jacob's ladder to shut it down entirely. Alternatively, Yuta can open his domain and imbue it with Jacob's ladder towards the end of Hakari's jackpot. And once said jackpot ends, the sure hit effect of Jacob's ladder will make it impossible for Hakari to open his domain. If Yuta wants to be especially devious with this, he can instead infuse Shrine as the sure hit effect to create a pseudo-malevolent shrine. And as soon as Hakari's jackpot ends, he gets chopped into little pieces. At this point, he's horribly outmatched no matter what he does. Hakari's entire win condition depends on getting a lucky jackpot in if Yuta doesn't make the smartest choices. Yuta's win condition, on the other hand, control the fight from the start and never give Hakari the chance. And when you really break it down, this matchup isn't about who's stronger at their peak. It's about who dictates the battle to begin with. And in almost every scenario, that's Yuta. But let's hear what you all think. Do you think Hakari has what it takes to beat Yuta, or is he getting cooked? On that note, if you enjoyed this video and you want more content like this, subscribe and be on the lookout for my next video.